March the 29th, 2024. Guys, you're looking at an article. This came out on the 26th, or 28th, excuse me. And it's from the Washington Examiner. It says the Houston mayor admits city is broke, proposes tax hikes and cuts to remedy massive budget deficit. Their sanctuary city, Democratic run, and Democratic Mayor John Whitmire said Houston is broke at a city council meeting last week, offering tax hikes. Very important to what this video is about, offering tax hikes and 5% spending cuts to combat the city's deficit. Now here he doesn't talk about cutting back on the money going to the folks coming across the borders. He does talk about cutting back on firefighters and police, things like that. Now, I'm not going to read all of it, but I put this into kind of a PDF form, and I'll put a link to it, and you can go through and read the details. Been a long day, and I want to just kind of get through this and get to the point of it. Nothing worse than a long, drawn-out video when you're trying to make a point about something else. It can become very boring, but I did read all of these details, and some of you guys may want to. But the former mayor, Sylvester Turner, left his position this January, claiming he was leaving the city with a $420 million budget surplus. However, Houston has been spending more than it brings in, resulting in a $160 million deficit, the local outlet reported. On an annual basis, we're spending somewhere between $150 million and $200 million more than is coming in. This is from Chris Hollins, you guys in Houston, the city's comptroller. The budget surplus reportedly came from $1 billion in federal COVID-19 relief funds, which Turner used on city expenses. He wasn't making money. He was spending a lot, and then he took a big hunk out of $1 billion to only leave $420 million in the budget, right? Typical of big cities. And it's really like the old days when you had the Valentine's Day Massacre, all of those, the big New York gangs and all. It's kind of getting like that, you know. If there's a way to make money or make a dollar, on bringing folks here, getting them housed and all that, and you know these folks that are the mayors and the councilmen and all that of these cities are in on it. All of this big budget money, not every penny goes to where it says it does. I'm sure they're getting fine pay raises and a lot of things, but along the border, you got to realize there's control from both sides, both the south and the north of that border. I'm not forgetting about Canada, but right now, I want to stick to kind of the southern border, but we do have problems there, and it is record immigration happening along the Canadian border, our northern border. Now, we talked about Tucson a couple of videos ago. This is Houston, but when I got to looking at this, I decided let's look around the nation a little bit and see what we can find out, and I think it's important, but the important part is why. We're going to get to that. Now, just quickly, I want to do an update on the Tucson video. And this is during a Tucson City Council meeting. An elected official suggested that migrants could be dropped at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base on the U.S. District Courthouse in downtown. And then remember the report from the other night, that lady wanted to send them to Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. Councilman Kevin Dahl, a Democrat, told the Sentinel later that he was seeking to point out the urgency of the situation rather than making a concrete proposal. In other words, he threw it out there and he got his head bit off, and now he's backtracking. Typical politician. During last week's county board meeting, Lesher said sheltering asylum seekers can cost more than $1 million per week, while the county was able to secure nearly $12 million through the Federal Emergency Management Administration, FEMA, your tax dollars, during 2023 in tranches. Lesher said the funding was piecemeal, never enough, too many greedy hands in the pile. People will come back and say, we allocated another $2 million, we've allocated another $1 million, with all due respect, and we certainly appreciate those dollars, that's just another 2 months. Guys, listen to this incredible stupidity. All to bring down the country, but also out of greed. In other words, if you're the big man with his name starts with an S and ends with an S, $1 million here and there is nothing to buy someone. Take this, vote this way, go retire. Now let's just go back a little over a month ago. It says from February the 8th, again Tucson, to February the 14th, the county sheltered 13,357 people, including nearly 7,000 people at the shelter on Drexel Road, as well as 518 people at the former juvenile detention center. Another 4,158 people stayed at other non-congregate shelters, and 1,715 people stayed at a Comfort Suite Inn. On the average, most people stayed 1 to 3 days. I guess that's when they can arrange transportation to other areas. I don't know. This continues. It says Tucson Mayor Regina Romero praised the county's involvement in sheltering asylum seekers, calling it part of an incredible partnership, and called the logistical work to process asylum seekers invaluable. Except you've bankrupt one of the large cities in Arizona. Romero said she had great concerns now about the status of funding, and said she was frustrated with Congress for their lack of finding solutions for what is happening throughout the southern border. Not to get funding for more border patrol, to get billions more to allow this to continue. But guys, think about it. All these cities are asking for billions more from the federal government. Now, who pays that? That's you and I. That's important to why this is happening. Now, Ms. Romero continued. She reminded city officials the county burned through about $4 million per month. Remember in the video we talked about $1 million per week. And that funding arrived in just-in-time tranches from the federal government. Lesher said the system was similar to throwing a coat over a mud puddle as the county continued to the next. And that's not the way to handle this. The county has a 6-week runway before funding is exhausted, while coordination efforts will continue. We are faced with a big challenge in April. Remember, they're running out April 1st. There is, but they're looking for more taxpayer money, and we're already, guys, most of us making it month to month. Lucky to do that. A lot of people now are being foreclosed on, losing their homes and their cars. It's a part of the plan, but why? Now, in this PDF, I put together a couple of notes that, as I was thinking through what I had read and trying to come up with a couple of different reasons. One, we know, and we've been told 1 million times, that it's for the vote during the upcoming election. But we're also seeing a lot of folks turning against the Democrats over things like the conflict in Israel with Hamas and just different things like that, guys. So there's a turning away from that, and a lot of the Hispanics see the problem. The ones that came in legally and worked, have great jobs. I know a lot of them. Some of my best friends have great businesses here. They came in here legal. The finest restaurant, I think, in the state, probably one of the top 10 in the Southeast are here that he owns. Great place. Anyway, why are they doing it the way they are? Again, they think they're going to get the vote, but what if they don't? They're going to bankrupt the country in doing that. Now, we're seeing the CBDC, or the Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC, about to happen. You can look it up. More nations each day are joining it. More and more money's flowing into Bitcoin. The big folks, BlackRock, JP Morgan and all, are getting the prices jacked up because they're investing billions into it. So as the prices rise on Bitcoin, more and more people will jump into that, support it, and they will get behind it. Now imagine, say you're, Larry Fink with BlackRock, some of those guys, Jamie Dimon, and you want to get the politicians behind it. Get them in on the early deal of buying a lot of Bitcoin, And they're going to have to, if there's a problem with it, which it could be with anything you can't hold in your hand, then the folks behind it, BlackRock, J.P. Morgan, and it's big banks around the world, can kind of put the pressure on Congress or Senate or whatever to let's put more money into here and back this up, right? More taxpayer money. So we keep hearing, and I've said it's because of the vote. I've also said that it would become a killing field. So these notes are from me, and I want to just put this out here. And please come in the comments and tell me what you think. Keep it core. I mean, keep it keep it clean. Understand that there's censorship everywhere, and you can say things in a way that we will understand it. But I do want to hear from you. And so these are notes I put in. It says, why is the government spending the country down the drain with handouts, wars, etc.? Think of Israel, think of Ukraine. Just as Tucson and Houston are broke, taxes will have to be continually raised to the point that you cannot pay them. Now, guys, I haven't read about New York City yet. These millions of dollars we're looking at, Houston, Tucson, are pennies compared to New York. But why are they doing it? How will they cover this if they continue it? How will they continue pushing to the wars? They'll print more money, but they're going to raise taxes. And they will have to be continually raised to the point you cannot pay them. What have we got now? We just hired 2 years ago, I think, 80,000 additional armed IRS agents. I think they already had 100,000 or so, and we don't even know how accurate any numbers are. So there's going to be a very aggressive approach to collect these taxes that they're raising on us. What will end up? What did Klaus Schwab say? You'll have nothing and you'll be happy. I think it will be more, and I think I typed this in at the end of it, you'll have nothing and you'll say nothing, because what little bit we give you through this digital credit system on your digital wallet will be determined by if you keep your mouth shut. You'll have nothing and you'll say nothing. That's from me. It says, when you cannot pay them or your property tax, they will take everything. In other words, all these taxes are about to be pumped onto us to where we can't afford to do anything. We can't afford to pay the taxes, land taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, any kind of tax, carbon taxes, whatever it is. But they're going to raise the money to pay for the immigration while we are replaced, the great replacement theory. So not only do they think they're going to get all the votes from this, and we don't know how the election will go, if it will be straight up or not, right? We don't know that. But more than that, they're going to put us into bankruptcy. Every one of us will have nothing. They have the people involved here, and it won't be just IRS agents when it comes to collection. Of course, they'll put in probably U.S. Marshals, things like that, possibly local enforcement. We don't know. But I want you to think about what I'm saying. Why would they spend the country broke if they expect to have to be living under the dollar situation or the tax themselves? But let me say this to the little guys, like the mayors in these big cities. You're going to be used up and thrown out when all of this is said and done, because they won't need you anymore. They've used you and they bribed you to take millions off the top from this immigration policy. Greed always works, always works. And so they're putting us in a situation where they're going to raise the taxes. Now, they wouldn't have to go really to the central bank digital currency to control this. They already have the tax agencies in place. But because it will be a forced tax, let me pull this down. A forced tax hike, you will have nothing and say nothing. Automatic wage control. In other words, that's one thing that's going to happen. You think you can go to a tax pro during tax season? That will all be handled automatically. There will be tax pros, but they will be on the side of the government, of course, and they will determine before you get paid or you have a chance to file your taxes or anything else. They're already going to know that because everything's going to be tokenized. Do you believe even your body, you, yourself, your capability to earn in the future is all going to be tokenized? You'll be nothing more than a number. But automatic wage control, again, CBC will allow this to happen much easier, even though it's not necessary. Once they push that into, which is another one of the arrows that are coming at us right now, CBDC control, immigration policy, and the massive spending. They're spending us broke so that they can, again, I guess it's order out of chaos. The phoenix will rise from the ashes. But when it rises this time, guys, it will be over for most of what we know as far as freedom. The Bible says you won't be able to sell, trade or barter without that mark of the beast. And we don't know exactly what the mark will be. I think it is a mental mark, because if they force a seal upon you or they tattoo you or seal you with something, that doesn't make you turn away from God, because that will not happen. God will not blame that on you if it's forced. But if you just say, well, this isn't a bad system, I'm going to take $1 million on the side and we're going to vote this in and let everybody come through, and we're going to retire in the desert and build a big brick home with a pool. That's not how it's going to work. You're not going to have anything unless you're ultra elite, and then only thing they have is an eternal life in hell. And even it's not just the bankers, but the bankers control the other things, like the destruction of the planet that we see in many ways in Ohio, Fukushima, right? What does Revelation say? He says, I will destroy those that destroy the earth. Maybe that will sink into some of these industry giants, much like when we saw Atlas Shrugged, we saw that book from Ayn Rand. We're seeing that now. Look at the Boston Harbor situation. Now, I know from being a sailor, a couple of things that I haven't seen mentioned much in the video analysis by millions of people. I haven't seen that many, but you can go anywhere and hear it. And I disagree with some of the analysis. Now, it's hard to control a vessel of that weight. This thing was massive, and it looked overloaded, but I guess that's just how they do it these days. And the most dangerous cargo was at the tip that hit the bridge. It was hazardous waste, some from the Center for Disease Control. I think this was headed overseas. Anyway, some of those containers broke off, fell into the bay or the harbor there at Baltimore. And there are a couple of Navy boats that are trapped there. They're really not full-time Navy. They were last used during the Iraqi War, and they are 900 feet long apiece. They're like aircraft carriers, but they can transport troops overseas within a week. They're very fast, and they're huge. They're behind the bridge. Now, they are working on that bridge, trying to at least clear the harbor. They're saying it's going to take billions and years or more to get the bridge back up. So you had an infrastructure loss there. But when we saw the lights go out on the ship, which happened twice before the impact, then that could have very well been a power loss. But they have redundant systems that are computer controlled, so any computer can be hacked. And if you've ever sailed at, say, Perdido, Pensacola Bay, in through Big Lagoon, through that area, all through in the back lagoon and all of that area back by the Floribama, you know how much the currents can affect you when you're trying to get into a slip. The tide's going out, tide's going in. But most of you that I'm talking with, especially Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Perdido, Pensacola, have probably sailed under the bridge at Pensacola or Perdido, a couple of bridges in Pensacola. And you know, if you're drawing any water at all, you need to go in the center of the bridge between those main pylons because it's shallower on the outside edges. That section has been dredged for these giant ships, same way it is in Florida, the Gulf Coast, everywhere, Alabama. So that you've got to try to, and I've been put in a bad situation. I've had a motor going out with the current coming in, motor going out under one of these bridges. I've had a motor fail going under one of these big bridges at night with one of these containers, not this big, but huge, right on our tail. I had to make just a quick cut to the right, forget trying to make it through the bridge, make a U-turn, let that big vessel come through, and follow it in at night. So it is a very dangerous situation. You have to try to get control, and you have to try to get back under the center of that bridge. Every person that's been on the water for any period of time will agree with that. It's not safe outside of that dredged area for any vessel, unless it's a small fishing boat, pontoon boat or something like that, but especially if you're a big boat. So they're trying to clear that. Now those ships that were there, the 900 footers last used in the Iraqi war, they've not decommissioned. They're just not part of the official naval fleet because of the high cost of maintenance. And right now we have a large aircraft that can move people quick. But if there was a war overseas where there had to be massive troop and tank movement, artillery, those two ships would be highly valuable. So they're going to quickly try to get those out. But guys, this is about possible sabotage. We don't know who it was. Could have been someone controlling this. And the big ships don't work on just two props. They have all these underwater movable props. I can't remember the term on it exactly, like bow thrusters, but many more. And they can spin those big ships on a dime under full control. But in a hard current, and when you've got to make it through a tight squeeze, all of that doesn't quite make it. So it looked like to me, I don't know how they lost power, was that nefarious or not. But as the power came back on and we saw the excessive smoke come out of the engine house, I suppose it was diesel, then they were trying, I don't think they were trying to hit that bridge, but whoever was controlling it, or the computers may have planned that, I think they were trying to get back into the center of that bridge. But if you read through the articles, the entire crew was taken to a Walmart by one of the local dioceses that come there and help the ship's crews go and get groceries and stock up for their trip home, right? So there was a point in time while they were gone that we don't know who was in charge of the ship, right? So that's just kind of what I'm seeing there again. But it looked like I can't say the crew was intentionally trying to hit that pylon. It looked like they were trying to get back in the channel, but when things go like that and both of your redundant systems, generators, all of that are going out at the same time, including GPS, guys, remember that. Then these ships use that, even small boats like our little sailboat and all that got tore up in Michael. We had GPS on our depth finder. It gave us all that information. Or the whole thing, guys, could have been an accident. They could have lost power. Some say there was faulty fuel inside that ship. They could have, and again, the first thing I do losing power coming in a situation like that is try to navigate through the center of that bridge. If you can't stop, you're probably going to run aground if you don't. If you try to go like that ship, a lot of people said it could have went straight. But we don't know the channel depth and the dredge depth there. You know, it's got to be real deep for ship running that type of weight and that displacement. Now, I'm going to end it with New York because it's the apple of the eye as far as some of these people go that are controlling everything. It says New York, and remember the grifting from the people in charge. New York has implemented cost-saving measures at its humanitarian relief centers and is renegotiating vendor contracts. This is from the S&P 500 report. In part thanks to those measures, the city dropped its cost estimates for sheltering new arrivals this year, 2024, to $4.2 billion, and next year $4.9 billion. Other cities and states that have been hit less hard by the crisis are still crunched for resources. And at the same time, guys, New York is being evacuated, except for the people that are demanding all this money. Thousands of dollars on debit cards and all of this. Guys, it's not that the U.S. doesn't like to help people, but when you're draining everything and the taxes are going to rise, they want to pay people now to let migrants move in with you, and before long you'll be kicked out because some type of squatter complaint. You understand where that's going? But the whole point of this, I think, is to force us into a one world currency, the digital system, and to bankrupt the nation to where the taxes are raised so high they will take everything because you can't pay them. Everything you have, from your body to everything, will be tokenized. That's the cliche word now. And that tokenized means your number, everything you used to have is a number, and they control it all. I know it turned out a little longer than what I meant to do. It's been a long day. Like I said, I'm tired, and I just wanted to get this up, guys. We're watching it. You watch it. But again, prepare for this massive taxation movement. You remember one of the first things the new administration did was increase by thousands armed IRS agents. Why? They're going to take it. It's a heads up. Be safe.